What's up guys, Frementor here, and today let's talk about Temporal Sanctum and Julra, and I'll also throw in some tips regarding Soulfire Bastion, especially like just dungeon traversing, and not so much about Arbor. Honestly, Arbor is a whole beast of its own, it needs its own video, the boss is a pain in the dick, and the dungeon format doesn't really follow it as closely as Temporal Sanctum and Soulfire Bastion. Anyways, let's get into it. So, in order to get to the dungeons, what you need to do is you need to get to a dungeon, then you need to input the key, and it will ask you which tier do you want to get into. Okay, once you're in, the door will open, and this is true for pretty much any dungeon. It needs a key and has a tier list. In order to get to tier 4, you need to finish tier 3. In order to get tier 3, tier 2, yada yada yada. Okay, now once you enter Temporal Sanctum, you actually have in each dungeon you have a new button. Okay, and the button here is this one, D. Okay, by default it's D. Maybe you changed it, I don't know. But either way, you need to click that button as soon as you enter Temporal Sanctum, and it will bring you into a different timeline. This is a very important mechanic for basically the whole run, as you will see soon, and it is pretty crucial for the boss fight as well. Okay, so there we go, change timeline, then we can enter. Okay, first thing I want you to notice is that you will see that there are, on the right side here, you see a blocked area. This is going to appear in every dungeon. It's just a block area you can't get through. However, in Temporal Sanctum, because you can change timelines, sometimes those doors are open, sometimes they're closed. Here, as you can see as an example, I am trying to see if the doors will be open on the void side, but they are not. Well, as you can see over here, the dungeon the dungeon door is open when you switch timelines. Okay, so it was closed in the previous one, right? It's closed on the other timeline, and it's open on this timeline. Something very important I want to mention is that the doors are usually located on the top left or top right of the screen. As you can see, I found my first door to reach to level 2. Okay, but what I want you to note is that for Soulfire Bastion and Temporal Sanctum, the doors are always either on the top left or on the top right of the map. Okay, and usually if it's on the top left for the first one, it would be on the top right for the second one, as in like in floor 2, or vice versa. It's not always the case, but more likely than not, if you know that you entered on the top left, try heading towards the top right to begin with. You are more likely to get a door than you are to if you went top left again. Now that we're in level 2, as you can see, I am pretty much on the top right side of the map. The way is completely blocked on the top right. So now I'm going to start walking towards the top left. I shift timelines, and the door should be pretty much right there. Almost. Come on. A bit faster. There it is. And there you see, there's the door. Okay. So as I said before, from top left to top right. Usually will help you out, and I got lucky that this door also opened. I didn't need to go all the way around. Usually there are 2 doors per level. So in level 1 there are 2 doors, and on level 2 there's also 2 doors that basically kind of like make you choose your affixes. Some affixes are just better than others for the next level. The affixes I chose are not great at all, but it is what it is. Boom, there we are. Right, and this is gonna be the boss room. This is true for every dungeon in Last Epoch. You have 2 floors, and the last floor and the third floor after the second set of doors is the boss. One thing I would like to mention, this is extremely important for Temporal Sanctum. Temporal Sanctum is actually an amazing place to farm exalted gear. Like, if you have just a bunch of keys laying around for Temporal Sanctum, I would use some of them to farm exalted stuff. Go in, find the affix you want, either weapon or certain armors, maybe if you're lucky, right? And just clear it all out. The reason this one is also much better than others, it is by far the biggest dungeon, okay, and it has 2 timelines, so you have double the mobs essentially, and also their mobs are way more dense here, and a lot of elite mobs as well. Anyways, let's go into the boss. I'm gonna narrate some of the mechanics on this boss. Julra is supposed to be the hardest boss in the game. In my opinion, Julra is the easiest boss in the game. I don't know. Soulfire is kind of close. It's kind of close. In my opinion, like, Soulfire is just more annoying to understand the mechanics because they're not as clear. Julra has very, very easy to follow mechanics. Okay? And she's way easier than the tree, in my opinion, as well. But she does have higher stat checks. But in terms of, like, doing her properly, a lot easier. Okay, so again, I'm gonna go in, proceed. Yep. So I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna load up my ward, just because I don't want to get one shot. As you can see, I have like nothing. Okay. Just get yourself buffed, because as soon as you enter the room, you will enter combat. Okay. As soon as you enter combat, her first ability, more than likely, for me, it's pretty much 100%. I haven't seen a case where it wasn't, but it's not like I'm farming this boss 24/7. She's gonna blow up this timeline, okay? So you will see a circle is gonna emerge from the center, and she's gonna blow up the timeline. Or like the room, yeah. See this one? Black hole. Yeah, you don't want to get hit by that. That's when you press D and you go into the other timeline. Whoop, other timeline. And very important, as soon as you switch timelines, this will be a recurring theme, walk away from where she is. Okay, I'm loading up my defenses again. So as soon as she comes to this timeline, she will put a void blob on the floor, and it will literally cast where you were standing up until it's cast. So it's like I can't move now because it will move with me. Okay, so as soon as it drops, I can go and kill her. Okay, and also at the same time, she will spawn 3 of these pillars. They basically shoot lightning. If you can tank them, then you don't need to kill them. If you're ranged, feel free to kill them. If you're melee, honestly, and you're tanky enough, can probably ignore them. Okay, another important aspect is, and this is probably what's going to be more annoying, you do want to grab 95 resistances here, because she has resistance shredding. Each resistance shredding is 2% and stacks up to 10 times. If you're doing all the mechanics right, you should maybe get 3 or 4 stacks at most. But if you're fucking up in mechanic, you can easily get to 10 stacks, and then you have 20% less resistances, so you always want to come here with more resistances. Anyways, let's continue. Very important as well, stand on the tile between the center ring and the outer ring, okay? She will always cast, pretty much now you will see, she's casting these spinning orbs. They always have the same holes, which is essentially between the outer ring and the inner ring. It's not as clean as just exactly there, but I would say stand a bit closer to the inner ring than the outer ring, but still centered. Okay? Yeah, and they're gonna spin. After this, she's gonna blow up the floor again, and we're gonna do the same thing, and we're gonna change timelines. Boop, change timelines, and again we go out as well, and we wait for her to come in. We load up our defenses, our wards. She comes here. She's gonna do it again, and then this time she also does the wave at the same time, which can be very, very painful. Technically, you can also probably escape to the other timeline right before this happens. Again, I'm tanky enough. I don't think it's necessary. The wave itself, if it one-shots you, you're just under-geared, okay? But the wave itself shouldn't one-shot you. Okay, again, charging in, right? And she's gonna do this again. As you can see, I am both ignited quite often. Right. Well, this is actually like because of my belt, so never mind the ignited part. I don't actually know if she ignites because my build requires me to be ignited. But she will lower my lightning and my void resistance constantly. Okay, moving timelines. Now you see this time the puddle stayed. So this is like a soft enrage timer. You can end up filling the whole floor with void. Not recommended. I did that before when it didn't have the damage. So again, there is a stat check here, but in terms of mechanics, she's a lot easier mechanic-wise than anyone else. Okay, and again, she does the puddle. I charge out of it after it drops. She's doing the wave shortly after. And she's also spawning this stupid thing that shoots water at me. As you can see in the bottom right here, I have Void Resistant Shred. That is from the puddle. So if you stand in puddles, you're going to get shredded. Okay, and again, spinny orbs, not a problem. Okay, after the orbs, blow up the timeline. And then you switch again, and you will see that the void puddles are still there. Switch timelines, void puddles still here. Okay, so now we wait here. And then we charge her again. Kill the sides if we want. Actually, you can't kill the sides on this one. So, and I guess I figured it out right now during the guide. So the pillars you can only kill on the non-void timeline, and the what do you call it? The puddles, if they don't drop on the void timeline, they actually don't stick around. Only if they drop inside of the void timeline. But again, they're not really that big of an issue, so I wouldn't even pay that much attention. Just make sure that you drop them away from where you fight her. Okay, it spins. She's gonna blow up the room. I'm gonna switch timelines. Again, follows a very similar pattern. Before she blows up the room, she also does that cone attack. Okay, now that we're in the, let's call it arcane timeline, maybe. I don't know. Ancient timeline. It's not the ancient. It's like pre-imperial. I forgot the name. But yeah, once we're here, we're going to kill the 3 pillars. Okay, and again, we're going to move away. We have time, right? Every time she blows up, you do have time when you switch rooms. Okay, she's going to mark us. We're going to charge. We're going to start doing damage. And again, you want to stand. I made a mistake there, but I corrected it pretty fast. And you want to stand between the two, the middle and the outer ring. And again, she's going to do that. And then she's going to blow up the room. Then we switch timelines. And you can see that the arcane one, the void puddle from the other timeline, unless it's in the void, doesn't stick around. So that's actually cool to know. You can actually play around with that. If you don't want to have any void puddles, you can actually, as soon as she does this, move on to the other timeline, I guess. And again, she does the same thing. Spinnies. And blow up the room. I'm pretty sure she won't even have time here. I just kill her. Yep. And that's pretty much it for this fight. Let's talk quickly about Soulfire Bastion and why it's a bit more complex. Yeah, before we get into the Soulfire Bastion boss, I want to make a quick note of a few things. One is, as I mentioned, majority of the doors are going to be top left or top right. It's not majority, it's like all the doors can only appear top left, top right, okay? And again, they alternate. If you pick the top left one, the next level will probably be top right one. I still do recommend clearing all of it if you're doing T4s, because they do drop a lot of Exalted. But if you just want to kill the boss as soon as possible, then yeah, that's pretty much the way to go. Okay, anyways, another thing is there are specific mobs here that you should be careful of. One is a fire mob, which is this fire giant right here. This guy hurts, okay? And yeah, obviously, again, I'm way too tanky for this, so it doesn't even matter which resistance I'm going with. But that guy hurts. This necrotic giant can also one-shot you off screen, like you won't even notice. He has a very wide shot, and these fucking balls, yeah, don't touch these balls, they hurt, okay? But again, if you're running necrotic resistance, which I do recommend if you're new to this, even though majority of the monsters in Soulfire Keep are fire, it is less likely to die to fire than it is to necrotic. Necrotic actually hurts here a lot more. Even if you're max resistance, okay? You really want to run the necrotic aura instead, and you do that by clicking D. And the other third mob, and I hate this one the most, is these little shits here. This little birdie. You can barely see it. This bird luckily dies really fast. However, the most annoying part about it, it's not on the floor. It jumps out from the air and drops onto where you're fighting, or somewhere around where you're fighting, and you might not see it in time. And this bird drops a massive AoE, and it kind of like staggers you, and it hits you 3 times. And if you don't have the necrotic aura on, it's a lot of times it kills you. Okay, I think it can even kill me at 20,000 ward. That shit hurts a lot. So yeah, always kill those. All right. Anyways, let's go over the boss. The boss, I always start with necrotic aura first because he does a necrotic ring. Usually he does only once, but this fight was a bit odd and completely threw me off. Luckily, I am a mega tank, so that's fine. Again, we load up the resistances, sorry, the ward. Alright, so as soon as you start the fight, okay, I start necrotic. You will see now he's going to do a massive necrotic ring. Now, one thing to pay attention to is the color of his weapon. The color of his weapon changes, which will dictate his next attack. Alright, so here you go. A ring. Now, because it's still... Usually he switches at this point, but it's still necrotic. So that's why I already switched to fire. Because I'm like just working on autopilot, but his scythe is still necrotic. Okay, so he's still doing necrotic rings. Okay. And scythe is still necrotic, so he's going to do one more ring. And now he changed it to fire. See that? Like in the middle of that ring, he changed to fire, so there was a firewall. Right, so paying attention to his scythe will dictate his next attack. Okay, again, he switched to necrotic, so now the floor is necrotic. It doesn't, the color of the scythe doesn't tell you what attack he's going to do, it's just which attribute it's going to be. Okay, but sometimes it doesn't. Okay, that's why I said this boss is really, really confusing. A lot of times the scythe is what dictates it, but sometimes you just get random shit like this. So yeah, I can't say that I understand this boss, but I just want you to see the fight. It's really not complex. Honestly, you can just tank everything, especially up to tier 3. Tier 3, 1, 2, and 3 are essentially like freebies. Tier 4, he does damage, but like aside from the necrotic ring, like this ring, it's all fire damage. So as long as you avoid this necrotic ring damage, you can pretty much go full on fire resistance and the boss won't really do much to you. But yeah, anyways, that's pretty much all I had to say about that. Happy hunting, good luck on your farms, and I'll see you in the next one. I know, super high quality video this time, but I had a lot of technical issues today, and I said, fuck it, we're doing it old school. And old school means I can't figure out the problem, but I still want to dish out this information out there. So, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.